Welcome to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast, the go-to place for busy band directors who want practical to build programs while maintaining balance in their lives. This podcast is brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where we help directors like you find efficiency, sustainability, and impact in your teaching and leadership. And speaking of impact, our platinum sponsor, Kennelly Keys Music, has been serving musicians with a commitment to quality, reliability, and exceptional service. Whether you need top-tier instruments, expert repairs, or trusted advice, they've got you covered. Now, let's dive in and set the tempo for success.
Welcome to another episode of Band Director Bootcamp, the podcast with productivity and wellness tips for busy band directors. I'm your host, Lesley Moffat, and I'm really grateful to be sharing this platform with you. We know you don't have time to watch lengthy professional development webinars, so we bring you 20-minute tidbits with takeaways you can use to support you and help you thrive in this awesome career. Hey, if you've ever felt like your personal or professional struggles were too heavy to carry, or like you watched a student wrestle with challenges that seemed bigger than they were, today's episode is your reminder that healing is possible and music can be a big part of the path forward. And I know I'm talking to music teachers and you know this, but let's just take a minute and remember and reaffirm a big piece of what we're doing. And I brought somebody here today who's going to talk to us. She's going to talk to us about her personal life and how she's used music to overcome some serious struggles. Her name is Emma G. She's going to talk about how songwriting has helped her overcome 23 surgeries, and she's built a mission around empowering others through creativity. So if you're looking for ideas to help your own students struggling, or you need a little inspiration to help with your own burnout, Emma's story is going to leave you with some real tools and renewed hope. So Emma G is a singer, songwriter. She's done TEDx speaking. She's a youth empowerment coach, and she's the author of an upcoming book called Mental Health Sounds Like This, originally from New Zealand and now based in Washington, D.C. She was born with hydrocephalus and endured over 20 brain surgeries and found that healing through songwriting has helped her, and she has since helped hundreds of other students and adults do the same through her youth empowerment through songwriting called Yes youth coaching program and books and performances. She inspires people and empowers them to write their own way to wholeness. I met Emma G when I had written my first book and went to Washington, D.C. We were at the Author Castle for this big red carpet event, and out comes this stunning woman in this beautiful bright blue outfit with her guitar. And I had never seen what was that movie? Emma G, help me out.
The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman, thank you.
Yes.
I'd never seen that movie, but at the time you came out singing This Is Me to all of us who had just written our first books. And it was amazing. The energy and electricity in that room with all of us who had just done something that we didn't know was possible. You came out and sang that song that I had never heard before. And I was like, oh, this woman understands me. She's amazing. So it was just a really powerful moment that you brought music in. And then I also, during COVID, when all you teachers that taught during COVID, high school band, that was so weird. But one of the things I did was I watched kids struggle, and I'm like, you guys need a way to channel your energies right now. So I hired Emma G to hop on Zoom with us once a week, and she did this singer-songwriting course with my kids. And I was observed the day that some of the kids were presenting. And my principal, Danny, sat down with me afterwards and got tears in her eyes when she talked about watching what the kids created. And she said, Lesley, that was such a profound experience. And so this is what Emma G brings to the table. And so I've probably taken up the whole thing talking just about how amazing you are, because you helped me and you helped my students through a really tough time. And so I'm just thrilled to have you back with us. Thanks for being here.
It's so good to see you. I was just before we went on today, I was telling one of my friends who lives in England, who I actually, they were the person that I started doing youth work with when I moved here to the States back in 2015 in Massachusetts. And I was saying, I haven't talked to Lesley in, like 4 or 5 years because, COVID happened, and, you're over on the West Coast, I'm here on the East Coast, but it's just been, incredible to watch all the things you're doing with your books and with your passion for music and the way that music helps. And I want you to know that it's really helped me stay aligned with my mission and vision when it comes to what I'm doing as a singer-songwriter and as a youth empowerment through songwriting coach. And I don't know, I have so much adoration for you and so much respect for what you do. And I'm really glad that we've been able to cross paths so often in this mission to help people with music. It's pretty cool.
It is really cool. And you started doing this because of your own journey. Can you tell us a little bit about what led you to this?
I say a little bit.
Yeah, I know it's a very long journey. I get that.
So hydrocephalus is a buildup of fluid in the brain. It happens for various reasons to various people around the world. It's a relatively rare brain condition. Fun fact, a lot of older folk who get diagnosed with dementia have actually been misdiagnosed because they actually have hydrocephalus. But I was diagnosed at the age of 4 months when my head was growing disproportionately fast to the rest of my body. And, I had my first brain surgery at 4 months to insert a shunt or a really long tube going from my brain to my peritoneal cavity to drain out the excess fluid. And that shunt has, stayed a part of my body for the past 30 something years. And it's been a lifesaver, obviously, hooray science. But on the other hand, it doesn't come without its faults. All technology, has its complications. So during puberty, especially, I had a lot of blockages in the shunt. And so when those blockages came up, then water would build up in my head with nowhere to go. And I'd get headaches. I would start vomiting. I would go unconscious. And if I wasn't admitted to hospital in time, that would lead to death. Super fun. But, obviously I'm still here. I've been on the brink, more times than I think most people would recommend. But the thing that, as much as we, and I'm sure you can ask most survivors this, it's a blessing to survive. It's a blessing to be alive, obviously. But of course, there's ramifications. And in my case, that was a lot of brain trauma, a lot of isolation from my friends, a lot of cotton wool. So I couldn't, play rugby with my friends. I couldn't, even do overnight camping for a long time. There was a lot of just aftermath that I didn't, that really impacted my development. And on the other hand, when you're a 12-year-old kid who's had 10 brain surgeries, how do you relate to your peers, right? So what I ended up doing was found music as the best way to relate to my peers, but it had all these other beautiful benefits, like, expression of self and helping me to navigate other traumas and adverse experiences that unfortunately a lot of young women have to go through because society is what it is. People of color that have to go through because society is what it is. And it also, this is the sciencey part of it all, because music stimulates both sides of the brain. There was, and as I'm playing piano and guitar and singing and writing songs and memorizing lyrics, etc., because both sides of the brain were stimulated simultaneously, it fired up and rewired parts of lost brain function in my brain cells that helped me to rebuild parts of my lost memory that have, me standing here in front of you today. So it's music is like, it's an all-round thing. And it's funny you were talking about the whole TEDx talks and things, because when I did my TEDx talk, a lot of people were like, oh, that's nonsense or whatever, or like there needs to be more scientific research behind that. I don't know if you're aware of this, Lesley, but back when I was doing CrossFit back in New Zealand, I learned that it takes approximately, on average, 50 years minimum of research to be proven before it becomes common knowledge. And so end of 2024, and I did my first TED Talk in 2022, end of 2024, Daniel Levitin, amongst many other authors, finally came out with this scientific research that totally backed up everything I was talking about in my TEDx talk. So I'm not pulling anybody's legs here. I am living proof.
Oh, that's so exciting because I've been reading lots and doing a lot with everything from vibration to frequencies and just all of the things and the responses that we have. It's amazing. So, fascinating story. And it's just every time I hear you talk, I hear more about you, and I just am so in awe.
Like you didn't know I used to do CrossFit? I know. It's weird.
Well, you talk also, about how you use music as a tool for self-expression and healing. You teach others to write their own anthems and reclaim their voice. I watched and witnessed several of those processes, and you help a lot of kids people in general, turn pain into power through this and the like. So, and I know you've talked about saving the world. I think you used to say saving the world one song at a time or something like that. I remember you used to say. And again, I've seen that in process. But what's that look like for you when you work with people? How do you see people change? Somebody that might come to you really troubled with something, and how does that music serve as their therapy or guide or to help them?
That's a good question. It's different for everybody. I got my teaching qualifications back in New Zealand, and I'm getting my coaching qualifications here in the States. But education's really been the underlying principle of everything that I do. However, because I think this is more of a New Zealand thing more than it is an American thing. A big portion of education in New Zealand is rooted in the student's individual history. And I'm not just talking about their lived experiences, but I'm talking about their family experiences, their economic experiences. Like, it's a holistic Pacifica value of how we treat our clients or students or whatever. And so that's kind of always been something that I've taken with me as I've, developed my coaching practice. But when it comes to like the changes that I see, a lot of it, because you can lead a horse to water, you can't force it to drink, right? So I can help somebody write the song and kind of, sort of push them along, but that doesn't lead to any aha moments, right? They really it needs to come from them. So a lot of what I have seen in my younger clients and I just have a 66-year-old client who recorded her first single last week. Listen, we're never too old, okay? We're all young on the inside, healing on the inside, forever journey. But I think the biggest sort of aha moments have been very much rooted in recognizing that, one, our voices, our opinions, our thoughts, our experiences matter. The more, and I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but I know for myself, absolutely. I was taught to suppress a lot of my experience, suppress a lot of my emotion. Don't be the angry Black woman. Don't be the angry woman, full stop, right? But it's okay to express that. It's okay to express sadness. It's okay to express love and joy and passion. And so letting my clients really lean into themselves has been, I think, the most beautiful experience, because at the end of the day, and I know since the last time I saw you, I've since gotten married. My husband and I run a Krav Maga self-defense school. He always tells his students, you cannot beat an enemy you refuse to face or acknowledge. And it's the same thing with songwriting. It's like, if you don't honor the student's background, their family's background, their ethnic background, their cultural, their religious, whatever it is, whatever lives inside of them, if you don't acknowledge that part of themselves, they're never going to be able to fully own and recognize their emotional state. And if they can't recognize that emotion is even there, how on earth are they meant to move through it, grow through it, you know what I mean, and heal from it. So that's been kind of, I know that was a very general answer to your question, but I feel like that's been like the time and time again what people have, ultimately achieved. It's more than just writing a song, right? It's like, oh, this is a reflection of me.
That's what I saw with those kids. And they said things in songs they wouldn't say in person or even in writing, just an essay. And you can't really say in band, let's write an essay about how you feel. But when you're doing it that other way, you can really incorporate it, as we write song lyrics, that's a safer way to do it. And you can, I remember you, oh my God, every time you were on the dig deeper. Nothing was good enough. You made them dig and dig and dig. I'm like, woman, we are going too deep. But you did it. And once you got them warmed up, they wanted to, stuff just started pouring out of them in ways that I hadn't seen them open up, especially since COVID. So
interesting. Why do you say we were going too deep?
So I didn't hear that.
Why did you say we were going too deep? Why did you think we were going too deep?
I didn't think they'd be willing to dig that deep, like with a stranger on Zoom after school. Kids were just in a weird place, and you were getting things out of them that I would have said, oh, I don't know if they're ready to do that with a stranger. And I was just fascinated watching you do it, and you did it through music. And so it was pretty cool.
I think that's the beautiful thing about music. And, again, about, your position as a teacher, it's like you have this... I could take this in a completely different direction but the crux of it is when you lead with authenticity and vulnerability and honesty, and I know you have done this your entire career, students, they may not know me, but they recognize that energy.
Yes.
And energy attracts energy. You know what I mean? I think that's a kind of a misconception that a lot of people have, is like, you can't ask too much of your students. I'm like, sure, if you're not willing to show up. But if you are willing to also, scratch a little beneath the surface and share a little bit about your humanity, then that allows, students to be human too. I think that's...
I brought you in probably 6 months after schools had shut down, and kids had kind of gone through this they'd gone from being social beings to really it was a bizarre time, and getting them to even come on with their faces on Zoom was hard. And that project really, though, that was the project where more of the kids started opening up more. So it was, for me and for my students, it was a big, really cool thing. And I want to ask you a little bit more about that. But before we do, I want to take a minute and do a big shout out to our sponsors of the podcast, the Empowered Music Educator Academy and Kennelly Keys Music.
As band directors, we know that success is all about preparation, whether it's in the classroom, on the podium, or behind the scenes. That's why the Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you master time management, reduce stress, and create sustainable routines that keep both you and your program thriving. And when it comes to ensuring your musicians have access to top quality instruments and services, Kennelly Keys Music is the name to trust. From rentals and repairs to expert advice and outstanding customer service, Kennelly Keys is committed to keeping your program running smoothly. Visit KennellyKeysMusic.com today to explore their offerings and experience the difference of working with a company that truly cares about music education. Now, back to the show.
All right, we are here to wrap things up with Emma G, and we've been talking about how music and the like can just transform lives, physically, physiologically, mentally. We all know this as teachers, we're reminding you. And some things that I recall from Emma, Song a Day Challenge. Did you have something like a productivity or wellness tool? Just talk to us a little bit about that. We've got just a minute, just something that you can, because if you're doing it every day, it's got to be something that's manageable. But why would you do that?
Why would I write a song a day? It was, so I didn't know it at the time, but after the fact, I've realized, and take this with a grain of salt when it comes to your spiritual practices, but there's this quote that hits me every time I hear it, which is, to pray is to talk to God, to meditate is to listen. For me, songwriting is a manifestation of that conversation. So yes, it seems like writing a song a day is ridiculous, but it's almost like my own meditation practice, my own prayer practice, my own opportunity to just step outside myself and think, look at the forest, not just the trees, and do something for my own mental health, because I recognize that as educators, as coaches, as mentors, we are so busy serving everybody else that we also need to keep our own cups full.
Yes. And I've said it before on this podcast. My outlet was performing before I was a music teacher. I was playing in bands and groups and all. And I spent 25 years not performing because I was too busy to do it. And I didn't feel that part of my thing. So I encourage listeners all the time now. Don't be like me. Keep nurturing that piece of you. That's why you fell in love with it in the first place. And then we forget because we get too busy, all that stuff. But gosh, well, listen, we got just a minute or two more. Do you have a takeaway? Or what if somebody's like, oh, I'd love to start songwriting? What would be my first couple of steps? What would somebody do? Like a music teacher listening, maybe, or if they have a student, what resources, what would you suggest if they were looking to start something like this? Like
so resources wise, I mean, there's 1.2 billion songwriting books out there that, can be really, really helpful. The Rhyme Zone, rhymezone.com or Rhyming Dictionary can also be very helpful. In terms of practice, I recommend first starting with a very simple word vomit exercise where you literally just sit down and write whatever comes to your head for 3 to 5 minutes. Ideally, while listening to some kind of music that is stimulating, like I like whole tones as a genre, to kind of, get that creativity flow happening. I have my own book coming out in, 2 weeks that may help you on your road to, to creativity and songwriting. It's called Mental Health Sounds Like This. And it literally is a guidebook to help people write songs as well as tap into the neuroscience and storytelling and my own personal examples. But there are a lot of activities in the book for people to take part in if they want to sort of learn more about different approaches to songwriting. But otherwise, I think, just giving yourself permission to be creative and have fun, because that's what it's all about, right?
Listen, let me tell you about music teachers. They go to music school and then they start to think there's a right way to do music and a wrong way, because you get graded on music and we forget to have fun.
Which is wild to me.
No, I had a student, his name is Reed Baldwin. He's passed away since then. And I remember vividly in the classroom one time, we had a festival coming up or something. I was just like, getting on my podium, thinking the whole world revolved around high school band. And I loved Reed because he had his hand up. I thought he was going to ask me some question about my riveting lesson I was teaching. And he goes, "Hey, Miss Moffat, I thought you said band was supposed to be fun." And, he didn't say it disrespectfully. And I kept talking about all the fun we were going to have in band. I thought, he's right. I've forgotten to have fun with the music. So, and that doesn't mean you play it poorly and act stupid in class. No, but it means, so keeping that all there too. I don't know where I went off on that, except you were talking here about that joy and that fun. If we don't associate our feelings with stuff, we don't connect with it.
Amen. Back when I used to teach at a tertiary institute back in New Zealand, I'd get get the students writing essays as songs. And so they would end up writing research papers about, whoever they were rapping about. It was fun.
And then they remembered the papers because they'd internalized it differently than if they had just read it off of a paper. Oh, right. We could go all day, but we can't because I promised 20-minute tidbits and I've gone over, but that's okay. Hey, tell us one more time, what's the best way for somebody to find either your book? And by the time the podcast drops, the book will be out because we're recording this in early July. And so how do we get in touch with you? We'll put the links in the show notes, but tell us.
Sure. The best way is to find me on my website, emmagmusic.com, or on all social media, Emma G Music. Emma G, like my name, and rhymes with energy, so it's easy to remember. And I make music.
Oh, well, God, Emma G, so good to connect with you again today. I'm so happy you were here.
Likewise. Thank you so much for the invite. So good to see you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Band Director Boot Camp. Thanks to our guest, Miss Emma G, and to all of you out there who keep showing up to teach music every day. Remember, success in music education is not just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. Thanks for listening, and keep making a difference in kids' lives through the magic of music education.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Band Director Boot Camp podcast. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. The Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you do just that. So be sure to check out our resources at empowerededucator.com. And of course, a huge thank you to Kennelly Keys Music, our platinum sponsor, for their unwavering support of music educators like you. Whether you need instruments, accessories, or expert advice, their team is ready to help. Thanks for listening and keep making music happen.